That is David. That is David on that stage. Grace, do not move.
He called her his backbone. Helen, he called her his backbone.
I sold my mother's land. I sold it so that man could eat. And I am standing here holding a tray at his party. 8 years, Helen. 8 years I gave that man.
Grace did not arrive at that party as a guest. She arrived carrying a tray. That was the detail that broke something open in her chest the moment she walked through the glass doors of the Lekki Continental Event Hall. The chandeliers overhead, the laughter bouncing off marble floors, the smell of expensive perfume mixing with grilled fish and wine. She had catered events like this before. She knew how to move through a crowd without being seen. She knew how to keep her face still and her hands steady and her eyes forward. But she had not known it would be his party. She had not known until she saw his name printed in gold letters on the banner above the stage. David Okonkwo Energy Solutions, 5 years of excellence. 5 years. Grace stood in the middle of that hall and did the mathematics quietly. 5 years of his success, 8 years of her sacrifice. 3 years he had been building this life before he even told her it existed. Grace had met David in Enugu 13 years ago. He was 24 and she was 23, and he was the kind of handsome that made you forgive things you should not forgive. He had a laugh that filled rooms, and a dream that had no structure, and a hunger she mistook for ambition. She was already sewing clothes from a small table in her mother's compound, saving every naira, planning a future with careful hands. He came into her life and she opened it wide. The first year, she lent him money for a business course in Lagos. He did not finish it, but she did not complain. The second year, she paid his rent when his landlord threatened to throw him out. The third year, she sold 2 of her mother's plots of land preserved for her future, and used the money to help David secure a fuel supply contract in Port Harcourt. He told her it was an investment. He told her they were building together. She believed him. She believed him through year 4, when the contract struggled and she sent money from Enugu every month to keep him afloat. Through year 5, when he stopped calling every day. Through year 6, when the calls became short and the excuses became long, and something in her chest began to ache in a way she could not name. Year 7, he told her he needed space to focus. She gave him the space. She told herself it was what strong women did. She told herself that men who were building needed room. She told herself her time was coming, that his success would become their success, that the land she had sold and the dreams she had quietly folded and the years she had poured into his direction would all come back to her multiplied. Year 8, she stopped hearing from him almost completely. She was sewing wedding dresses for other women in Enugu when Helen called and said there was catering work in Lagos, good pay, 1 night only. Grace packed a small bag and took the bus, and that was how she ended up here. Standing in his light, invisible in his success, holding a tray at the party that her sacrifice had quietly funded. She heard his voice rise above the crowd as he called Sandra his backbone, and something in Grace did not break. It clarified, like water going still after a storm, like a decision that had been waiting years for exactly this moment to arrive. She set the tray down on a side table. Helen grabbed her arm, but Grace shook her head gently. She was not going to make a scene. She was not going to cry in this hall. She was going to walk out the same way she had walked through life for 8 years, quietly, with her dignity pressed tight against her chest, like something she was never going to put down again. She left before the speeches ended. On the bus back to her hotel, Grace called a lawyer she had consulted 2 years earlier, when David first went silent and she had begun to worry about the land documents. The lawyer had told her something she had not fully processed then. She processed it now. The 2 plots her mother had owned, sold to fund David's first contract, had been used as collateral on a loan agreement with a Port Harcourt bank. The loan had never been fully settled, the collateral had never been properly released, and because Grace's name was still attached to the original land transaction, there was a legal thread running straight from her to David's entire founding contract, the one that had seeded everything Okonkwo Energy Solutions had become. It was not a weapon. Grace did not think of it as a weapon, but it was hers. It had always been hers. She instructed the lawyer to begin the process quietly. 3 months passed. David continued his life in Lekki as though nothing was shifting beneath him. He took Sandra to Dubai, he signed new supply contracts, he gave an interview to a Lagos business magazine about building an empire from nothing. Not one word about Enugu, not one word about the woman who had sold her mother's land so he could eat while he was still finding his feet. His business partner, Michael, read the article and felt something uneasy move through him. Michael had known David from the early Port Harcourt days. He had seen a woman's name on documents that David had never explained clearly. He said nothing at the time. He was watching closely now. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, typed cleanly on a lawyer's header. A financial dispute connected to the original collateral in Okonkwo Energy Solutions founding contract required urgent resolution. The bank had been notified, the authorities had been informed, a court date had been set. David read it 3 times. Then he called Grace's number for the first time in over a year. She did not answer. He called again. She did not answer. He sent a message. She read it and set her phone face down on her sewing table and kept working. The needle moved, the fabric moved, she did not. The case moved forward. His lawyers scrambled. Investors began asking questions he could not answer cleanly. Sandra asked questions he could not answer at all. The magazine interview resurfaced and a journalist began pulling at the thread of what building from nothing actually meant when a woman's land title was attached to your first contract. Michael quietly moved his own interest to one side. He had not survived Port Harcourt by standing too close to falling things. By the time it was settled, David had paid. The settlement covered the land value, 8 years of accumulated interest, and every legal cost. He paid in full because the alternative was the kind of public exposure that would leave nothing of his reputation standing. Grace did not celebrate. She took the settlement and breathed slowly and thought of her mother and the land and the compound in Enugu and the sewing table she had started everything on. Then she signed a lease in Abuja's Wuse district and opened what she had always been meant to open, a fashion label. Her name on the door, her hands in the work, her vision stitched into every piece. She named it after her mother. 4 months later, David Okonkwo walked through the door. He had lost weight. His suit was still good, but something behind his eyes had gone quiet. The particular quiet that settles in men when the world has finally shown them exactly what they are. He stood in the showroom and looked at Grace, and she looked back with a face that held nothing against him. Not anger, not coldness, not triumph, just steadiness. She offered him a seat. She offered him tea. He sat and spoke, and she let him. He said he was sorry. He said Sandra had left. Michael had pulled back. New contract had not come. He said he thought about that party now and did not recognize the man who had stood on that stage. Grace listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "David, I forgave you the night I walked out of that hole. Not for you, for me. Because I could not carry your weight and build my own life at the same time, and I chose my life." He looked at her. She saw what she had once loved, the rawness, the need, and felt nothing collapse inside her. Only the solid ground of who she had become while he was not paying attention. She stood. She walked to the door and opened it the way you open a door for someone who is leaving, gently, finally, with the understanding that what was between them had ended long before this moment, on a night in Lekki when a woman in a black catering uniform set a tray down and chose herself. David walked out. Grace closed the door. She went back to her work.
She had given him 8 years. She had taken back forever. Was Grace right to stay silent and let the law speak? Or should she have faced him that night at the party? Drop your answer in the comments. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs it today. And drop a comment. We want to hear from you. God bless you.